For the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight's invocation is being offered by Bishop G. Hollins Sr. of Mount Moriah Church. He is the guest of Council Member Tony Tenpenny.
Let us pray. Eternal God, our Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you, dear God, for all that you've done for us. We thank you, gracious God, for being so kind and so merciful to us. Now, gracious God, as we come, Father God, we come asking that you would send down your anointing, you would send down your blessings. We're asking that you would look upon this Metro Council, that you would look upon everyone that's here tonight. We're asking that you will bless every political office across the United States, not only here in Tennessee. Bless the White House, bless those, Father God, that are running. Then, God, we're asking that you will bless every family that's represented here. Bless those, Father God, who are not able to stand, who's not able to raise up, but give us strength, leadings, and guidance. Give us a blessing, give us an anointing. We'll be ever minded to give your name the praise, honor, and glory. For we ask it all in the name of Jesus. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Without objection, we'll suspend the calling of the roll and ask the clerk to record the names of the members present throughout the meeting. Is there a motion for the adoption of the minutes of our July 21st meeting? Have a motion and a second. Without objection, the minutes will stand approved as written. Madam Clerk, are there any messages from the mayor?
There are no messages from the mayor.
Thank you. Tonight we have two presentations. The first one, I believe, is Councilmember Harrison. Okay. Our first one is Councilmember Johnson.
I would like to ask all of my council colleagues to come up and help me to honor a civil rights pioneer here in Nashville and Tennessee, the Honorable Mrs. Rosetta Miller Perry. Could you please come up to the podium?
Amen.
And I would like to ask all of Ms. Perry's family, friends, everyone in the audience that's here for her this evening to also come up as well, or stand up. Thank you. This is new for me. Okay. Everyone, Rosetta Miller Perry is my godmother and someone that I highly, highly respect, who has accomplished a lot here in Nashville and Tennessee. This is a resolution recognizing Tennessee's magazine publishing entrepreneur, newspaper publishing chief executive, Mrs. Rosetta Miller Perry. Whereas Mrs. Rosetta Miller Perry has been a highly respected citizen of Davidson County for many years, and whereas Mrs. Rosetta Miller Perry completed her BS degree in chemistry from the University of Memphis in 1956 and her DMS from the John A. Gulpton School of Mortuary Science in 1957. And whereas Mrs. Miller Perry's remarkable success is attributed to her reliance on the time-honored values of hard work, common sense, and her ability to work well with people from all walks of life. And whereas Mrs. Rosetta Miller Perry is a civil rights pioneer, trailblazer, and actively involved in the civil rights struggle for the past 50 years. Miller Perry was involved in the Nashville sit-ins in 1960. Miller Perry later moved to Memphis and began a career as a field representative for the United States Civil Rights Commission. And in 19 1968, as a federal official, Miller Perry observed and wrote about SCLC and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. for the Washington USCRC office. As a federal official assigned to cover the Memphis garbage strike in 1968, Miller Perry witnessed and wrote about the suspicious activities of the FBI, the invaders, and the chaos before and after the murder of Dr. Martin Luther King. And as a result, Miller Perry became a victim of a vicious FBI character and career assassination that almost destroyed her family and federal career. And whereas Miller Perry, as a civil rights fighter and African-American federal official, survived this attack, continued her federal employment with the United States Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and in 1975 became Nashville's first female African-American area director of the EEOC, and first in the Atlanta region. She retired from government service in 1990. Whereas Mrs. Miller Perry founded Perry and Perry Association and published Contempora, a Tennessee-focused African-American magazine, and founder of the community-oriented Tennessee Tribune to share positive news and information about careers about African Americans to the community and youth of Nashville. Seeking to help the African American business community, she established the Greater Nashville Black Chamber of Commerce. And seeking to help inner city youth, she created the Anthony J. Sebren Journalism Center, a 501c3, in partnership with Dell Computers. Whereas a civic dynamo, Miller Perry serves on numerous boards. The 52-year-old Rosetta I. Miller Scholarship at Memphis State University was created in her honor by 3 of her majority teachers. She also established the Dr. L.O.P. Perry Scholarship for medical students at Meharry Medical College. For years, she presented an annual $1,000 Rosetta Miller Perry Award for Best Film by Black National International Filmmaker, presented at the Nashville Film Festival. She also gives international travel scholarships to a diverse group of local college students, including Fisk, MTSU, and Vanderbilt. She is the recipient of over 250 awards, and most recently the inaugural recipient of the ISIS Award. And whereas through her invaluable efforts and immeasurable contributions to benefit communities, she has truly made a positive impact on countless lives, and her hard work, commitment, ingenuity, and devotion continues to be seen. And whereas it is fitting and proper that the Metropolitan Council recognizes Mrs. Rosetta Miller Perry for her professionalism, accomplishments, and outstanding contributions in metropolitan Nashville and Davidson County, and wish her continued success. The Metropolitan Council hereby goes on record as recognizing Tennessee's magazine publishing entrepreneur, newspaper publishing chief executive, Mrs. Rosetta Miller Perry, sponsored by Karen Johnson, Megan Berry, Jerry Maynard, Frank Harrison, and others, and also our esteemed Vice Mayor Diane Neighbors, also signed. Thank you, and I'd like for her to say a few words.
I accept this honor on behalf of the many unsung heroes in Nashville, in the state of Tennessee, and all of my friends who are here today. I also accept it on the behalf of many individuals who are no longer with us. I have had many fights with this council. and I'm living today. But 2 council persons that I really had big fights with, and it really hurt me to my heart, was Emily and Jameson. And Lord behold, after talking with them and having them buy my lunch and beginning to understand what they were talking about, and they began to understand what I was talking about, we became good, dear friends. And I respect you, Emily, for that. Thank you. Now, I'm accepting this. That's fine. I do have over 200 awards. This means a lot. This is the city of Nashville. But I want to say to this council, for 22 years, I have asked this council to give due respect to the black press and include the black press in your budget when you're giving money when the elections come up. But you have not done it. Now, I know that you have term limits, but I'm in a term limit also. I've been around a long time, but I have enough sense to know I'm in a term limit. And I would like this council, in giving me this honor, do the next best thing. Be fair to the black press. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Harrison, Councilman Maynard, you have the next presentation. Councilman Harrison?
President Hefner.
Councilman Maynard?
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor and members of the council. It is indeed a pleasure for me to be here this evening on behalf of this resolution that we've passed recognizing Tennessee State University for their 100th year anniversary. We are delighted to have with us tonight the current president of Tennessee State University, Dr. Portia Shields, with us. We're also delighted to have a former president, Dr. Hefner, with us tonight as she accepts this award for Tennessee State. Also, there are other individuals who have come to wish them well. We're happy to see one of my constituents, Dr. Lockridge, who just recently retired from TSU after spending a great number of years. I won't say how many, but nevertheless. But anyway, here we are. We're going to read this resolution. This resolution is recognizing Tennessee State University for their 100th year anniversary. Whereas it is fitting that we recognize those institutions of higher education that are celebrating a momentous occasion in their illustrious history. And whereas one such worthy occasion is the centennial anniversary of Tennessee State University, a Tennessee Board of Regents institution located at 3500 John A. Merritt Boulevard in Nashville, Tennessee, whereas Tennessee State University, one of the state's prestigious historical black colleges and universities, is one of the oldest and most respected public universities in the state and is celebrating its centennial during the 2011 through 12 academic year and has remained a pillar of education excellence since its beginning in 1912. And whereas Tennessee State University has produced outstanding graduates and alumni who reside throughout the United States, and I won't name them, whereas in 1922, Tennessee State University became a four-year teachers college and the first degrees were granted in June 1924. By 1941, the educational programs were substantially upgraded. Upgrades which include the establishment of the graduate studies, whereas gained Southern Association of Colleges and Schools accreditations in 1946. Whereas the present-day Tennessee State University exists as a result of the merger in 1979 with former University of Tennessee of Nashville, and today continues to offer 45 bachelor's and 24 master's degree programs, and awards doctorate degrees in 7 areas of study. And whereas under the astute leadership of President Dr. Portia H. Shields, Tennessee State University continues to be a mainstay of excellence in academics. And whereas Tennessee State University, as a member of the Ohio Valley Conference, competes at the highest level in 13 intercollegiate sports, many Tigers have gone on to compete successfully in the professional ranks and the Olympics. Whereas it is fitting and proper that the Metropolitan Council recognizes Tennessee State University administration, alumni, faculty, staff, and student body, past and present, on this historical occasion, the school's 100th anniversary. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Council of Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, Section 1, the Metropolitan Council hereby goes on record as recognizing Tennessee State University's 100th year anniversary. Section 2, the Metropolitan Council office is directed to prepare a copy of this resolution to be presented to Dr. Portia Shields. And whereas in Section 3, this resolution shall take effect from after its adoption. The welfare of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County require it. This is sponsored by Councilman Frank Harrison, Edith Lankster, Karen Johnson, Walter Hunt, Erica Gilmore, Chris Harmon, and Lionel Matthews. Congratulations.
Thank you. Well, thank you. Wow, you really know how to treat a lady, don't you? I humbly and gratefully accept this honor bestowed upon Tennessee State University. It's a mighty institution. It's a wonderful institution, but now is under siege. And I am asking you, in behalf of all of the wonderful students and alumni who have served this state well as the United States, to give us your prayers and good wishes and keep a good thought for this mighty institution that runs with excellence and integrity. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have an unexpected visitor tonight. We have former Mayor George Cates here who would like to say a few things to the council. We'll need to give you a microphone. We might can hear you in here, but we want to hear you on television too.
Vice Mayor Nabels and members of the council, it's my privilege to be here as one member of the committee planning the 50th anniversary of the origin of Metro. John Siegenthaler, Thelma Harper, and I have been serving in that capacity. The next phase of the celebration will be Wednesday night of next week, a week from tomorrow night, when the next panel discussion will be held. It's going to be held at the First Amendment Center on 18th Avenue. A reception at 5:30, a panel at 6. The emphasis at that program will be the first Metro Council. And participants will include Jim Tuck, a member of that council, Richard Jenkins, a member of that council. We hope Tandy Wilson, who now resides in Mississippi, but recently fell and broke an arm, that he's going to be healed enough to be present. In any event, the emphasis will be on the first Metro Council. Let me say that while we are celebrating the 50th anniversary, we are doing it on the background of a birthday. but we're also celebrating 5 decades of outstanding service, including the members of this present council. The committee had its job cut out for it, just to begin the celebration. But now the important thing is for us to recognize the people whose celebration, whose participation, whose leadership has provided what we've enjoyed in Nashville for the last 5 decades. I hope that a number of you may be present, that will be at the First Amendment Center next Wednesday night, 5:30 for the reception, 6 o'clock for a panel discussion. Thank you, and I appreciate the invitation.
Thank you. Councilman Bedney, did you wish to be recognized?
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to ask my peers to join me in a moment of silence to support the families and the victims of the terrorist act in Wisconsin, where the Sikh families were attacked in a house of worship, which is one of the places where we hope to be safe. And I had hoped to ask just that, but I also want you to ask you to think of the little girl that died today on a parking lot, senseless death, and that I take this opportunity to remind people in Nashville to make sure they are safe when they leave their cars, to make sure there are no kids left behind. So if you join me for a moment of silence, I appreciate it.
Thank you. I've also been advised that we have another special guest with us this evening. I understand that Congressman Cooper is with us tonight. We appreciate your being here. I would remind everyone in the chamber that if you cannot find a seat, you will need to move to the mezzanine. We're now at the point on our agenda for the election of the county clerk. Councilmember Stein.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. At our specially called meeting 2 weeks ago, the Rules, Confirmations, and Public Elections Committee interviewed under our rules Mr. Kenneth Eaton, Mr. Charlie Tigert, Ms. Brenda Wynn, and unanimously recommended all 3 of those candidacies to this council. Mr. James A. Baker did not appear before our committee. I'm sorry, Baxter, I apologize.
Okay, by rule, James Baxter will be withdrawn from the ballot. We have 3 candidates. We have Kenneth Eaton, Charlie Tigert, and Brenda Wynn. You will have 5 minutes in that order to speak, and we will speak from the lectern. It can be a combination of you or anyone else you have in the chamber here to speak in support of your candidacy. Mr. Eaton, will you come to the lectern?
All right. First of all, I've got to say, I don't think it's appropriate for the council members to wear campaign stickers during council meetings. So if they would please remove those, I think it would be great. Anyway, my name is Kenneth Eaton, and you all have my resume, you all have my bio, and it speaks for itself. I'm not going to go into a lot of details on it. As you can see, there's not another person that's more qualified than I am. I guess you all have that information. It was sent to the board. This office is a business, and it's a public service spot, but it's more like a business. It's got to be ran like a business. You're electing someone to fill this spot for 2.5 months. And it takes 6 months with someone with business experience to wrap their arms around this department. It's got problems, and it needs some help. In 2003, I ran for my first office, and I did so because I was tired of the good old boys club. I was tired of the public officials taking away and giving to their friends. And to this day, I do not approve of that. And It's still happening. A few weeks ago, I saw the same thing going on. The Democrat Party chose their candidate. I had my resume there. 35 members of the executive committee. 22 of them were from the women's group. They outnumber basically the whole group, so they made their decision and made it before the meeting. When I've done my survey with the council members, I found the same thing. I have found that the council has not opened arms. They've basically made their decision. Now, a lot of you haven't, but the majority of you have made their decision, and that's fine, if that's what they want to do. But my understanding, the charter states that upon the clerk leaving the office, the deputy clerk will take charge until election is held. I'm not for sure if that's the rules, but that's my understanding. So I don't know really if this council has the authority to put someone in place to handle this. And if they do, they need to elect a qualified person. And again, as I said, I've done my survey, so I know what the majority speaks here. So to protect the council from explaining to the news media why they didn't pick the most qualified person, I want to withdraw my application to take this interim job. But I want to make a recommendation for what it's worth. You have a deputy clerk that's been there for 20 years. Let him keep filling the position until an election and dismiss the person the previous clerk put in place. Allow Charlie Tigard to go in and take over, and do a complete audit of that department for everyone's concern, and let the other candidates spend their time campaigning and let the people decide who will be the next Davidson clerk. Thank you.
Charlie Tigard.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and colleagues. This is a little bit different perspective than I'm used to, and I apologize for my bronchitis. I assure you it's non-contagious. I am thankful that Nashville is finally reaching the conclusion of the David Torrance, John Ariola era of our history. The deplorable actions of these two elected officials have cast a blemish on the actions of all politicians and given the public even more reason to doubt the honesty, sincerity, and hard work of public officials. Tonight, I speak with each of you, my colleagues, about several aspects of this process that trouble me. First and foremost, when citizens are scrutinizing more and more exactly how we spend every dollar of taxpayer money, I submit to you that given that voters will choose a new county clerk in November, no reasonable business would pay over $25,000 in salary for an interim replacement when there is a highly qualified assistant director with over 25 years of service already in place. But since the government doesn't always function like private business when someone else's money is involved, we have no choice tonight. But I do question the wisdom of electing anyone who is running for the office. The effect is for taxpayers to subsidize that person's salary for the next 3 months when the focus really should be on restoring faith in the office itself. Second, as John Cooper and I have researched what influence the Metro Council has over state constitutional offices, we have learned that local government basically has no control whatsoever over these offices. The final agenda item tonight is a memorializing resolution that sets into motion a process to ensure that citizens wishing to get married at the clerk's office can still do so, and offers a chance to donate to a Metro Council-approved 501c3 charity if desired, rather than the extortion of a gratuity directly to the clerk, although state law will still allow that gratuity to be collected. In terms of qualifications, I cite my 25-year history as a bookkeeper and small business owner whose sole existence depend on customer satisfaction and performance. I have extensive history in both vehicle tag renewal and the collection and issuance of business tax license. In summary, here is my offer to you on the Metro Council. First, if chosen as the interim clerk to this evening, I will not seek the office in November and will focus instead solely on restoring the confidence of the County Clerk's Department. Second, I will set in place a system for nonprofits who will benefit from the weddings performed in the office, and also pledge to donate 100% of my net salary earned over these 3 months to these selected charities. That equates to a little over $20,000. Third, I will explore possibilities to replace taxpayer-funded signage at no additional cost to taxpayers. Too much taxpayer dollars have already been squandered on these useless signs. And fourth, I will independently and honestly evaluate the structure of the office and make suggestions only, to the incoming clerk on ways to improve the efficiencies of that office. Each of us in our own way hopes to leave a legacy on our time of the council, to be seen as effective representatives to our constituents. After 6 terms spanning parts of 4 decades, I'm already comfortable with my legacy. I have consistently watched out for wasteful government spending, missed only 3 council meetings in 16+ years, and missed very few committee meetings. I always cite sponsoring Greenways legislation with Council Members Stein and Durwood Hall as a cornerstone of my legacy. Helping to restore public trust in the clerk's office would be the final block. I have been respectful of the pressures each of you have faced in filling a position like this, and this is my first and only time that I would ask for you to consider your support for me. Finally, Vice Mayor Neighbors, I will respectfully announce my intention to abstain from voting on this issue for only the 2nd time in my entire tenure on the council. In 1989, I pledged to myself and my constituents in my first election never to vote on an issue that would personally benefit me. So even though I have pledged to donate my net salary for the next 3 months to these nonprofits, serving the citizens of Davidson County in this capacity is certainly a benefit I would not ignore. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Next is Brenda Wynn. Councilmember Matthews.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I didn't know what I was going to say standing up to nominate Mrs. Brenda Wynn this evening, but I tweeted a quote, and this is probably the only time you'll hear tweet in a council meeting, but I tweeted a quote earlier this week that goes, "Don't try to make things easier, try to make yourself better." It's no surprise that the clerk's office has had some very difficult, challenging days in the past, recently, and it hasn't been easy in that office. I'm sure it hadn't been easy for the staff. It hasn't been easy for the former clerk. But I don't think that our job tonight is to make things easier for that office. The challenges that that office face, they're going to be there, and they're going to continue to be there. I think our job tonight is to ensure that that office is being run better, and I can see no one more fitting than Mrs. Brenda Wynn to accomplish that task. I have to disagree with my colleague that just spoke, because there's no question in my mind that she has the ability to run that office efficiently, to make sure that there's consistency in that office, and to bring back the public's trust to that particular office. And I know that there are other council members that would like to stand as well, and I'm going to afford them the opportunity and not take any more time. But I gladly nominate Mrs. Brenda Wynn and ask that each council member support her tonight.
Councilman Tenpenny, do you wish to speak in support of Ms. Wynn? No, ma'am. Okay, this is her time right now. Anyone else? Councilmember Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to rise in my support for Brenda Wynn. Brenda is a proven leader in all communities here in Nashville. She is clearly the best choice for this position, and I rise and support her, and I yield the rest of my time to my distinguished colleague from North Nashville.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I've known Brenda Wynn since 1995 when she was an executive at Meharry Medical College. And then she went to the Department of Neighborhoods with Mayor Purcell, worked with Congressman Jim Cooper. She has the integrity, and as Councilman Matthews said, also the skill and the capacity to be a great leader at the clerk's office that desperately needs strong leadership. I hope that you will rise with us and vote for Brenda Wynn for this position. Thank you.
Councilmember Berry.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I too rise in support of Ms. Nguyen's nomination this evening. I think it is imperative that we bring a much more business-focused sense to that office, and Ms. Nguyen has an MBA, and I think that that is just one of her many, many qualifications, and I hope that all of you will consider supporting her as well.
Councilmember Hunt.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to express my support for Ms. Nguyen. I'm not going to say I've known Ms. Nguyen all of her life. I'm just going to say I've known her for half of her life. But in the capacities in which I have known her, in political offices, private offices, at church, she's always has the same personality, the enthusiasm to make not only this a better place to live, but making people better to live in this place. So for that, I humbly offer my support for Ms. Nguyen for the clerk's position. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I rise in support of Ms. Nguyen. In addition to her professionalism, her personality is very even tone, which I think is something that's very important when you have troubled situations. You need someone that comes in that's even tempered and balanced. So I would like to say that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay. Ms. Nguyen, do you wish to speak?
I'd just like to rise, Vice Mayor Neighbors, and say thank you to all of you for the opportunity to stand before you tonight and to seek the appointment as Davidson County Clerk. I thank all of my friends and supporters who stood here on the council floor to speak on my behalf. I say to you that I look forward to serving the citizens of this city that I love so much in the future as the Davidson County Clerk. I humbly ask that you would cast your vote for me tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We are now ready for a machine vote. If you want to vote for Charlie Tygart, you will press your green button. If you want to vote for Brenda Nguyen, you will press your red button. Green for Tygart, red for Nguyen. Madam Clerk, will you close the machines and tally the votes?
Tygart 9, Nguyen 28.
Congratulations to Brenda Nguyen. Councilman Stein. We will now proceed with confirmations. Councilman Stein.
Madam Vice Mayor, the Rules Committee met Mr. Richard Courtney, a reappointment to the Electric Power Board. We recommend him 9-4, none against, and I move his approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
For the Hospital Authority, the reappointment of Dr. Harry Jacobson is recommended 9-4, none against, and I move his approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes.
For the Property Standards and Appeals Board, the first-time appointment of Mr. Dwayne Bell Sr. and the reappointment of Mr. David Glasgow, both were recommended 9-4, none against, and I move their approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes.
For the Tourism and Convention Commission, the first-time appointment of Mr. Stephen Andre, the reappointment of Mr. Fletcher Foster, and the reappointment of Mr. Hank Lachlan. All three were recommended 9-4, none against, and I move their approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. When I call your name, please stand and remain standing. Richard Courtney, Dr. Harry Jacobson, Dwayne Bell, David Glasgow, Stephen Andre, Fletcher Foster, and Hank Lachlan. On behalf of the entire Metropolitan Council, thank you so much for your willingness to serve and to volunteer your time. Thank you. We are now at resolutions on public hearing. The first one is RS 2012-357, exempts Lachlan Table at 1520 Woodland Street from the minimum distance requirement for obtaining a beer permit. Councilmember Westerholm.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Committee reports.
Sorry, Councilman Stites.
Public Safety voted to approve 5-4, 0 against.
Thank you, Councilman Stites. Councilman Westerholm.
Thank you. I move to open the public hearing.
Okay, could I have a show of hands of those who are in support? A show of hands of those in opposition? Seeing no one in opposition, does anyone in support wish to speak? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Westerholm.
Thank you. I move to approve.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Is the door closed back there? Next is BL 2012-175, changes .26 acres from SP to R6 zoning for property located at 24 Lincoln Street. Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I need to defer this bill indefinitely, and I do have a brief explanation.
Have a motion and a second. Councilmember Moore.
This was requested by the Planning Department, and due to the applicant not having a site plan ready, they had asked or requested to have this deferred indefinitely, and I renew my motion.
We have a motion and a second for indefinite deferral. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-190 amends 136.04 acres of the mansion at Fontanelle Specific Plan District for properties located at 4105, 4125, and 4225 Whites Creek Pike to permit a single-family resident bed and breakfast inn and to amend the definition of a seasonal performance entertainment venue. Councilmember Hunt.
Thank you, Madam President. Please open the public hearing, please.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing none on either side, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Hunt.
Thank you, Madam President. Move for approval, please.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-191 changes 27.81 acres from CS to SP zoning for properties located at 915 and 921 Robinson Road to permit a mixed-use development. Councilmember Jernigan.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Move to open public hearing.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one in opposition, does anyone in support wish to speak? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Jernigan.
Move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-191 changes 1.93 acres from R15 to RM20 zoning for a portion of property located at 7301 Highway 70 South. Councilmember Weiner.
I'd like to open the public hearing, please.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one on either side, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Weiner.
Move for approval, please.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-193 changes 1.52 acres from CS to MUL zoning for property located at 265 Old Hickory Boulevard. Councilmember Pridemore.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to defer this to the September public hearing.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor of the deferral, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2012-194 changes 31.96 acres from IWD to SP zoning for properties located at 2050 Lucas Lane and at Lucas Lane unnumbered west of Dickerson Pike to permit scrap operation, retail, and all other uses permitted by the IWD zoning district. Councilmember Scott Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to move for a deferral until the public meeting on September 4th with a brief explanation.
Have a motion and a second. Councilman.
There's going to be a community meeting held on August 23rd. I've been spending a lot of time talking to my neighbors in the Shady Hills community. There was a misunderstanding about the business that is coming into the area. And also what we've been doing is we've been better educating individuals on where the land is located, because the majority of the people don't know where Lucas Lane is located. And it's kind of far, you know, in the back of kind of close to Trinity, and you just have to see the property to really get a sense of what's going on there. And I'm going to move for a deferral, and thank you, and I'll yield the rest of my time.
All in favor of the deferral, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is BL 2012-195, changes 2.48 acres from R6 RM20 to RM40, SP, MUL, MUG, MUI, OR20, ORI, CL, CS, CF, IWD, and IR to MULA. 155.05 acres from MUGA, 234.33 acres from MUIA, and 63.29 to ORIA zoning for various properties in Midtown between I-440 and I-40. Councilmember Allen.
I'd like to open the public hearing, please.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Anyone in opposition wishing to speak, please line up at the lectern. State your name and your address, please.
I'm Jennifer Pennington, 3700 Woodlawn Drive. I'm asking that you please defer the passage of BL 2012-195. The wording in the updated Midtown Community Plan is such that the language supports mass transit, while the wording in the bill does not mention it. Passing this bill would give tacit approval or support of bus rapid transit. A lot has changed with the proposed BRT since the Midtown Plan was completed. My family owns property in Midtown. At a meeting the other night for affected residents in West Nashville, we were told that the businesses along the corridor will be specially taxed and the homes might as well. We have been told plenty that we can't verify, so until the BRT has a firm plan, I do not wish to vote to tacitly support the BRT through the Midtown Community Plan. There are a number of historic issues as well. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Margot Chambers, and I live at 3803 Princeton Avenue. I'm asking you to delay the passage of Ordinance BL 2012-195 for a month until the Nashville Metro Council has held meetings to understand the differences between the Nashville Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, which is called the MPO and is federal transportation, and the Nashville Metropolitan Planning Department, which is our local government. Barring any delay of this ordinance, I'd like to ask for the removal of all references and supporting documents of the east-west corridor to this ordinance. I do not believe referencing this corridor is necessary for the zoning changes to occur tonight. I ask these things because this ordinance refers to the MPO-sponsored program called the East-West Corridor as the reason for the land use change. As you know, the East-West Corridor was added to the federal level of transportation funding by the MPO 4 months ago. It is a mass transit system to run in the middle of the road like a train, except buses will carry passengers in a dedicated right-of-way and move first before all auto traffic. The route is from White Bridge to 5 Points in East Nashville. It goes right through the heart of Midtown on Broadway and West End Avenue. Mr. Michael Skipper, the executive director of the MPO, simply asked chairman of the MPO on March 21st, 2012, to add the east-west corridor to the 2035 Regional Transportation Plan, and the chairman obliged. The chairman of the MPO Executive Board is Mr. Rogers Anderson, the mayor of Williamson County. You can view all of this under the public notice section of the Nashville Area MPO website. It's fascinating information found under those meeting minutes. Before you pass anything the MPO has asked for, please take a moment to study MPO structure and authority and how it is different from our local government. The most important thing Metro Council should be examining is any project related to the east-west corridor. I believe there are hidden costs not yet discussed. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Carter Baker, and I live at 3708 Richland Avenue, just off West End Avenue. And I've thrown away the comments that I had in order to second the previous words of Ms. Chambers. Though my wife Emily and I don't live in Midtown, we do live a very few blocks short of its I-440 border. As far as I know, there has been no survey of potential connector ridership along West End Avenue within the half mile on each side that is considered the prime source of ridership. The data that exists appears to come from statistics and not a local survey. This lack of data, plus unknown construction financing from the federal government, and even more unknown long-term operating funding sources, which you all, as council members, will likely have to vote on, move me to request that you delay this approval in order to separate the Midtown zoning proposal from the east-west connector. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Belle O. Newton. I live at 3950 Woodlawn. First of all, I want you to know that I'm a huge proponent of mass transit when it's done properly. My daughter lives in Chicago, doesn't own a car. We use the system, so it's not about that. I'm one of those nerds. I watch Channel 3. I try to keep up with what's going on. And when this came up, I dug down into it. I talked to some property owners, some who are in favor, some who are not. Quite honestly, some are petrified that their taxes are going to go up just because they're on the corridor and the BRT is involved. The BRT has changed so much in the weeks that we've been going to this meeting. The cost, $175 million, half of which will be coming from federal funds, which are being requested by the end of September. I'm pretty scared about that. By the software, I have been identified as a potential daily rider. I am not a potential daily rider. I'm a baby boomer. I go to Green Hills, and that's where most of my neighbors go on their daily route. I also am in support and know that some of these properties need to be upzoned. We support that. We're just, the language doesn't talk about the BRT, yet it's an integral part of the bill. All we're doing is asking you to slow down. This is way too important to Nashville. It's way too important to individuals. It's important to everybody. Slow down. Let's ask the right questions, get the right answers, and we'll all be better for it. Thank you very, very much for your time.
Thank you. Seeing no one else wishing to speak, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Allen.
Thank you to the people who have spoken. I'd like to ask a question about logistics of deferring. Is it possible to defer for one meeting, or does it have to be for 2 meetings? How does that work?
Whatever you desire. You've had the public hearing.
We've had the public hearing.
So you can defer one meeting.
And there would not be need to be another public hearing
You've
for
had
that.
the public hearing.
I would like to defer for 30 days if we can to answer some of these issues.
Two
Two
meetings.
meetings, pardon me. There have been some other issues raised as well about historic properties. I think that we can deal with those quickly and keep this thing on track. I don't want to mess up what our city's trying to do and moving forward, but I do feel like we need to have our citizens comfortable with what we're doing. This is a huge move.
Councilman Holloman, you wish to speak on the motion to defer?
I do. I just want to support Council Lady Allen in her motion to defer. As many of you know, I represent an area immediately adjacent to this. I am a tremendous supporter of our city moving forward with mass transit. I also believe that in order to support that mass transit, we do need to add density to our urban core. But I do think that there's a more thoughtful way to do this than what's currently proposed. Several of these properties are moving from a category to the A version of the category, which means things will be built up onto the street and will not have to be affected by the sky plane. I think those elements are good. But there are also elements that I have concern about where we're adding density and changing zoning categories in a way that if we don't get federal funds for the BRT, we don't have a traffic study that tells us what the alternative would be, how we would deal with this if we speculatively rezone these properties to get points on a federal grant application and don't get the money. In addition to that, I think that this is a very important area of our city. It's dotted with several historic structures as well as a real neighborhood fabric. And I'd like to see us look at a UDO for design guidance so that we do this in a thoughtful way, the way that we've done in several other areas of our city, and that we're careful that we protect some of our most historic structures in this corridor. We've already lost valuable resources that could really add to that fabric, like the governor's mansion. That's gone. I don't want to see us continue that development pattern. I don't think we have to continue that development pattern. I think that we can have both additional density to support transit and still keep that fabric and have an improved urban design in that area that really gets this part of our city, and as a step for our whole city, headed in the right direction with transit and urban infill. I don't think that's an unrealistic goal, and I hope that we'll spend the next 30 days and longer if need be to get it right. I understand the need to move forward with requests to the federal government for transit dollars, but I don't want to do it at the expense of the long-term growth and improvement of one of the hearts of our city. Thank you.
More discussion on the motion to defer. Councilmember Langster.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I just want to rise to support Councilmember Allen on the motion to defer. As you heard, there are some important concerns that did arise tonight. We can address those issues. We have answers for those issues, so I do support the deferral. Thank you.
All in favor of the motion to defer, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-196 cancels 1.52 acres of the Chippington 2 Planned Unit Development Overlay District for property located at 1306 Corland Drive, zoned RM40. Councilmember Anthony Davis.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to open the public hearing.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing none on either side, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Davis.
Thank you. I'd like to move approval, please.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Without objection, we can take BL 2012-197 and 198 together. BL 2012-197 changes 1.24 acres from MUN to OL zoning for properties located at 673 Old Hickory Boulevard and at Old Hickory Boulevard unnumbered, east of Cloverland Drive. BL 2012-198 amends 1.24 acres of the President's Reserve at Brentwood Commercial Plan Unit Development Overlay District for property located at 63 Old Hickory Boulevard and Old Hickory Boulevard unnumbered, east of Cloverland Drive, zoned MUN, and proposed for OL to permit a medical office, general office, outpatient clinic buildings where an office building was previously approved. Councilmember Banks.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Move to open public hearing.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one in opposition, does anyone in support wish to speak? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Banks.
I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Without objection, we can take BL 2012-199 and 200 together. BL 2012-199 cancels 19.2 acres of the Westwood Trace Residential Plan Unit Development Overlay District located at 8423 Highway 100, approved previously for 37 single-family lots at the southeast corner of Highway 100 and Natchez Trace Parkway, zoned RS30 and CL and proposed for SP. BL 2012-200 changes 35.31 acres from AR2A, RS40, RS30, and CL to SP zoning for properties located at 8423 Highway 100 and 5948 Pasco Road to permit residential and various non-residential uses. Councilmember Mitchell.
Yeah, I move to open the public hearing.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Thank you very much. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one in opposition, does anyone in support wish to speak? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Mitchell.
Yeah, I move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-201 changes 17.39 acres from RS40 to SP zoning for property located at Highway 100 unnumbered to permit nursing home, assisted living, and residential uses. Councilmember Mitchell.
Yeah, I move to open the public hearing.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one in opposition, does anyone in support wish to speak? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Mitchell.
Yeah, I move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-201 changes 13.9 acres from IWD to SP zoning for property located at 114 Powell Place to permit retail, commercial, and light industrial uses. Councilmember Tenpenny.
That's Mitchell.
Hmm?
Is that Mitchell? Thought she called 201, did she? 202. Okay.
I'm sorry, 202.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. I call for the public hearing.
Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in support. Thanks. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one in opposition, does anyone in support wish to speak? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Tenpenny.
Thank you. I move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-203 amends the Metro Code pertaining to tent camping on religious institution property within industrial zoning districts. Councilmember Berry.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I would like to defer indefinitely with a brief explanation.
Have a motion and a second. Councilmember Berry.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We are still working on several aspects of this bill, and I would just ask that we can come back to it at some point in the future. Thank you.
All in favor of indefinite deferral, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-204 amends the Metro Code to add tasting room as an accessory use in the IWD, IR, IG zoning districts. Councilmember Tigert. Councilmember Claiborne, I'm so sorry.
Thank you. Open the public hearing, please.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one in opposition, do you wish to speak in support? Please state your name and address.
My name is Steve Scoville. I live at 740 Darden Place. I'd like to thank the council and the vice mayor for the opportunity to speak. Local microbreweries are a way for the economy to sustainably grow by producing products that are produced and consumed locally. They're a source of new jobs and keep revenue in the local economy and have some other benefits that accrue to the local community. Microbreweries that are allowed to incorporate tours of their facilities and allow visitors to enjoy products produced on site help generate additional tourist traffic and entertainment traffic. The craft brewing industry has been growing nationally at a rate of about 12 to 14%. That's been over the last 6 or 7 years. And it's expected that that growth rate will not change anytime in the foreseeable future. The Brewers Association, located in Boulder, Colorado, represents over 2,000 small craft breweries, and it has a definition of what a microbrewery is. And I'll paraphrase. Microbreweries sell to the public by one or more of the following methods, one of which is to directly to the customer through carryouts and on-site tap room or restaurant sales. The opportunity to offer products for sale on-site and to offer tours of the brewing facilities is a critical element in the early success of microbrewing businesses. Current zoning for Metro in the ID, IR, and IWD districts allows microbreweries by right. It also permits restaurants by right, even those that serve alcohol. It also permits retail use with conditions. The proposed amendment seeks to establish and permit a newly defined use, which is a tasting room, as an accessory to the microbreweries in these zoning districts. The current amendment was approved by the Metro Planning Commission at its July 26 meeting with two changes to its original text. One was a change in allowable square footage. The other was the prohibition of an exterior entrance into the tasting room was removed, thus allowing the general public to enter the tasting room directly from the street or the parking lot or sidewalk. If transiting to the tasting room cannot be accessed directly from the exterior, then the general public has to go through the brewing space in order to get to the tasting room. Breweries are manufacturing facilities and are not, like other manufacturing operations, are not generally open to the public for numerous reasons. Safety, cleanliness. Thank you.
I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Claiborne.
Move the bill for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-205 amends the Metro Code to create farm market as a new use to be permitted by special exception in AG and AR2A zoning districts and specifying the applicable conditions, signage, and parking standards. Councilmember Tygart.
I would like to move this, defer this bill indefinitely, please.
Have a motion and a second on indefinite deferral. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We're now at resolutions. We have two that aren't on the consent agenda, RS 2012-358 and RS 2012-368. Are there any others that need to be pulled from the consent agenda? Okay. We will start with RS 2012-358. Councilmember Blaylock. Provides an amendment to the charter of the Metropolitan Government regarding council budget hearings. Councilmember Blaylock.
Thank you. Committee reports.
Councilmember Garrett.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. The Charter Revision Commission approved this 3-0.
Thank you. Councilmember Blaylock.
Move for approval.
To defer.
I want to defer this to the second meeting in September.
We have a motion and a second on the deferral. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is Resolution 2012-368. Councilmember Weiner accepts certain incomplete infrastructure and property interests located in Section 2 of the Woodland Forest subdivision in Bellevue. Councilmember Weiner. Okay. Okay, we will move on to resolutions that are on the consent agenda. RS 2012-331, 359, 360, 361, 362, 363, 364, 365, 366, 367, 369, 370, 371, 372, and 373. RS 2012-331 authorizes the Director of Public Property to exercise an option to purchase real property located at 34 Hobbs Road near Julia Green Elementary School for use and benefit of the Metro Board of Education. RS 2012-359 approves a grant from the Dollar General Literacy Foundation to Metro government to provide partial funding for one employee's salary in the Mayor's Office of Children and Youth. RS 2012-360 approves an application for a fire prevention and safety grant from the United States Department of Homeland Security to Metro Nashville Fire Department to provide training for arson investigators. RS 2012-361 approves an amendment to a federal grant from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and the Mayor's Office of Emergency Management for maritime infrastructure enhancements regarding threats of terrorism. RS 2012-362 approves a second amendment to a grant from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security to the Metro Fire Department for equipment to enhance the safety of firefighting personnel. RS 2012-363 approves a grant from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency to the Metro Board of Health for implementation of nitrogen dioxide monitoring stations. RS 2012-364 approves a contract between the Metro Board of Health and Mars Pet Care U.S. Inc. to provide food for dogs at the Metro Control Facility and to promote adoption efforts. RS 2012-365 approves an amendment to a grant from the State Department of Health to provide tender care outreach services for enrolled children. RS 2012-366 modifies the existing master list of architectural and engineering firms to add 11 firms. RS 2012-367 approves an annual cooperative agreement between the Metro Water Department and the U.S. Department of Interior Geological Survey for the continuation of water resource programs. RS 2012-369 appropriates $77,000 from the General Fund Reserve Fund to the Metro Beer Board to purchase document scanning equipment and for building repairs. RS 2012-370 authorizes the Metro Department of Law to compromise and settle the claims of Peggy Duncan Mathis, administrator for the estate of Roy Glenn Hall Jr. against Metro government and 4 correction officers for $10,000 to be paid out of the Judgment and Losses Fund. RS 2012-371 authorizes the Metropolitan Department of Law to compromise and settle the claim of Donna Haskins and Daniel Haskins against the Metro government in the amount of $22,000 to be paid out of the self-insured fund. RS 2012-372 authorizes the Horton Group to install, construct, and maintain an aerial encroachment at 136 Rosa L. Parks Boulevard. RS 2012-373 authorizes White Lodging Services Corporation to install, construct, and maintain an aerial encroachment at 301 3rd Avenue South for Hyatt Place. Thank you. And we have one memorializing resolution. RS 2012-374 encourages elected officials authorized to perform wedding ceremonies to establish a procedure to enable newly married couples to make a charitable contribution in lieu of or in addition to a payment of a gratuity. I will need committee reports. Councilmember Matthews, Budget and Finance.
Budget and Finance approved all resolutions on consent agenda, 12 for, 0 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Glover, Education.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Education Committee passed 6-4-0 against on 2012-331.
Thank you. Councilmember Langster, Health, Hospitals, and Social Services.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Health, Hospital, and Social Services approved 2012-363, 364, 365, 4, and 0.
Thank you. Planning and Zoning, Councilman Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning, and Historic Committee voted 11-0 to approve RS 2012-331, 372, and 373.
Thank you. Public Safety, Councilman Stites.
Public Safety voted for approval 5-4-0 against for RS 12-360, 361, and 362.
Thank you. Public Works, Councilman Hunt.
Public Works approved 366, 367, 368, 372, 373, all are passed by 8-0.
Thank you. Councilmember Stein.
Rules Committee approved 374, 9 for, none against, and I move approval of the entire consent agenda.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion. Okay. We're back on RS 2012-368, accepts certain incomplete infrastructure and property interests located in Section 2 of the Woodland Forest subdivision in Bellevue. Councilmember Mitchell.
Yes, Vice Mayor Neighbors, I'm sorry. I'd like to suspend the rules to have this heard as committee of the whole.
It's not on the consent agenda, so we can move.
Okay.
Need the committee reports.
Committee report.
Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning, and Historic Committee voted 11-0 to defer by rule.
Councilmember Matthews.
Budget and Finance passed, approved, 12-4-0 against.
Councilmember Hunt.
Public Works did not vote because the sponsor was absent.
Okay, Councilmember Mitchell.
Yes, I would like to suspend the rules.
Is there any objection to a suspension of the rules so this bill can be considered tonight? Seeing none, Councilmember.
I'd like to move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We're now at bills on I'm sorry. Sorry, Councilman Garrett. We have a late filed resolution. It accepts a Clean Tennessee Energy Grant from the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation to the Metro Water Services Department to replace aged HVAC units and ductwork with new energy efficient units in Omohundro Water Plant Campus. Councilmember Garrett.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. On behalf of Council Lady Erica Gilmore, John, would you explain the reason for the suspension of the rules?
Yes, this is to receive grant funds, and the contract must be signed before the next council meeting in order to receive the funds. So if the council doesn't act tonight, then we would lose the money.
Thank you, and I would move to suspend the rule 11, please.
Is there any objection? Seeing none, Councilman.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor, and I move approval, ma'am.
Could I get a committee report from
please.
Councilman Matthews?
Budget and Finance approved, 12-4-0 against.
Thank you, Councilman Garrett.
Thank you, and move approval, ma'am.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We're now at bills on introduction and first reading. Is there a motion for their approval? Second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next are bills on second reading. BL 2012-206 amends the Metro Code pertaining to fire flow requirements for single-family homes constructed on larger lots in the General Services District. Councilmember Hunt.
Thank you, Madam President. I guess it's the time this bill was deferred for,
I need a couple of committee reports.
yes, committee reports.
Councilmember Maynard.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Coles voted to defer one meeting, 4-4-0 against.
Councilmember Stites.
Public Safety voted for approval, 5-4-0 against.
Councilmember Hunt.
This, at the request, we had a request to get this bill deferred for one meeting.
We have a motion and a second for one meeting deferral. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Councilman Garrett, are you handling? Okay. BL 2012-207 abandons an easement previously retained with the former rights-of-way of alleys number 104, 106, 113 on property located at 719 Church Street. Councilmember Hunt.
Thank you, Madam President. Committee report, please.
Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning, and Historic Committee voted to approve 11 for, 0 against.
Public Works, Councilman Hunt.
Public Works approved 8 and 0, and I move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-208 abandons 8 drainage easements for properties located on Bell Park Circle. Councilmember Todd.
Committee reports.
Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning, and Historic Committee voted to approve 11 for, 0 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Hunt.
Public Works approved 8 for, 0 against.
Councilmember Todd.
Move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-209 authorizes Muninet Fiber Agency to construct, install, and maintain fiber optic cable within Davidson County. Councilman Tenpenny. You're right.
Where'd Tenpenny go?
Tenpenny. Okay, we will move on to BL 2012-210, approves a lease agreement between the Metro government and Tennessee Highway Patrol to permit construction of a state communications tower in Cane Ridge community. Councilmember Matthews.
Committee reports.
Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning, and Historic Committee voted 11 for, 0 against to approve.
Thank you. Budget and Finance, Councilmember Matthews.
Budget and Finance approved 12 for, 0 against, and I'd like to move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-211 readopts the Code of the Metropolitan Government containing certain ordinances of a general and permanent nature enacted on or before April 17, 2012. Councilmember Stein.
Rules Committee recommends 9 for, none against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We're now at bills on third reading. BL 2012-187 declares surplus and approves the disposition of certain parcels of real property. Councilmember Harrison.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-188 names the private road accessing the townhomes of Shadow Glen Drive to provide better emergency service to the residents of the townhomes. Councilmember Banks.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Seeing all committee reports in, I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-189 approves an agreement between the Metro Nashville Arts Commission and Fifth Third Bank concerning sponsorship of the Arttober Nashville. Councilmember Matthews.
I'd like to move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Okay. We will defer 2012-209 by rule. Is there a motion to... Oh, sorry. Oh, yes. Councilmember Berry. How could I forget?
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Let me find it.
There's another resolution also.
Councilmember Berry, what is the nature of your emergency?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We are, the nature of the emergency is on your desk, although she will be turning 100 this year, and we did have time to plan. It's my fault that I didn't get this filed in time, so I would like a suspension of the rules, please. Thank you.
Is there any objection to a suspension of the rules? Seeing none, Councilmember.
Thank you. Committee report, please.
Councilmember Stein.
Rules Committee recommends 9-4, none against.
Thank you. Councilmember Barron.
I would move approval. Thank you.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Did I forget anybody else? Is there a motion to adjourn?